Hello nerds! Thank you once again for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the Week in Nerdom, your place for daily nerd news videos, and today being Monday, we are talking music, and a lot of stuff is actually going on in music. The Grammys just happened, we're going to talk about that, Mastodon, Tool, reviews, things are going on. Let's hit the intro. First thing right out the gate is we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. You'll notice this guy right here in the frame. I am testing a new microphone. It's going to go in the How to YouTube playlist, so check that out. It'll probably be up end of this week, beginning of next week, sometime around there. I got to do some tests, and this is the first of those tests. So if the audio's no good, I'll let you know, like in a little text box right here, and then this will be in the frame for no good reason. But if the audio is usable, then also that will be right here, and we will see how that goes. But let's get into the actual news. So, first thing, news-wise, we were talking about for music this week is Mastodon. They have, well, Brann, their drummer, who did that song for the Dark Knight's Metal record that we talked about a couple months back. He was there in Europe right now. They're on tour, and Brann was talking to, I'm going to mispronounce this, so I apologize, RockSverige? Sverige? I think Verige, maybe the S is silent. I don't know, but the link is in the description. And he was talking to them about the new song that we were supposed to get before they went on tour. Well, there's actually kind of a story behind this. They weren't necessarily setting out to record new music, necessarily. They were setting out to build rehearsal spaces in Atlanta, where they're from. Apparently, a little while back, they bought a building in Atlanta and have been renovating it, and they're putting in rehearsal spaces for other local bands. So they're giving back to their community, which is pretty freaking awesome, especially considering apparently there were two other large buildings that housed a bunch of rehearsal spaces for local bands that went out of business right about the time that they started doing this. So there were what you would consider homeless bands. What Brann actually said, homeless bands in the Atlanta area. So they're, doing a community service, and as part of the construction on their building, they built a recording studio. They built a whole compound, apparently, again according to this interview. And that is pretty freaking awesome in and of itself. So to test this recording space, they were like, we got some riffs, let's throw something together, let's see what happens. And if it comes out as kind of a demo, then that kind of sucks, and we should head back to the drawing board. And what came out was more than just this one song that we were, again, supposed to get before they went on tour. They're working on a whole new album already. This is one of the faster turnarounds for a Mastodon album we've ever seen. Though Brann does say very specifically, we will likely not see it in 2019, though we will probably see it in 2020. The song, though, is by all accounts and everything, is done at this point. It just was not completely done before they went on tour, so they couldn't release it, and they're not promoting it, which really also sucks because part of the tour, Scott Kelly from Neurosis is going to be on, and I don't know to what degree he's going to be on the tour. He didn't really specify that, and I didn't look for the specifics. Today's been a long day, and I usually do music day of, so my apologies. But Scott Kelly, probably his side project band, is on tour with Mastodon for at least part of this European tour. And apparently Scott Kelly does guest vocals on this track, on this first single that they are putting out for their upcoming record. That is also the first recording that they've done at their new studio space, which is all kinds of awesome. But that's all we've got there. Let's move on next to Tool. Maynard took to Twitter this past, I think it was like this last Friday, and he made it very clear, no bones about it. They are midway through the mixing process. We talked a couple weeks ago about how they are almost done, or that they had finished, rather, recording his vocals, and vocals are the last thing that they record. So now they have to mix the whole thing, and if recording took them 7 years, Lord knows how long it's going to take them to mix. But Maynard says they are halfway through that process, and that we should be expecting the new record this summer, which puts them up by a couple of months off of my projection from when we first heard about this record. I was anticipating it would be out by the fall, so that is pretty awesome. He said very specifically that it was going to be out sometime between mid-May and mid-July, so approximately a 2-month window, which is pretty odd, because that's coming up. We're not that far away from those months, so... new Tool coming very, very soon, according to the man himself, Maynard James Keenan. But that's all we got for Tool. Next, we're kicking on to Guns N' Roses. Apparently, rhythm guitar player Richard Fortus, the original rhythm guitar player Richard Fortus, was talking to STL Today. St. Louis Today? I don't believe that's Seattle Today. I don't know who it is, but it's a publication of some sort here in the States. He was talking to them, and he said that once Slash gets done with his current European tour, Slash is touring Europe with his solo project, once that comes to an end, then their plan is to start writing the follow-up to Chinese Democracy, which is a weird thing all unto itself, because Chinese Democracy took, what, like 25 freaking years to come to fruition? Okay, maybe not quite that long, but still, it was legit, like 18 years. And it kind of was no good. And I say kind of no good, it was kind of garbage. Although it went through so many transitions and there were leaks, and some of the leaked versions of Chinese Democracy were marvelous, but what we actually got released was not. So this, though, will be, by and large, the original lineup of the band, assuming everyone stays friends, or friendly at least, long enough to record. Though, if you've looked at the numbers for what they made off of their last tour together, very likely money talks and bullshit walks, and they made a lot of money, so I'm sure they can put up with Axl long enough to record another record and probably tour the world, that is a tongue twister, one more time, possibly, because Axl is not doing the AC/DC thing these days, like we talked about last week, so he's got to do something to make the money, so he's going to be on better behavior, probably not his best behavior, but that's a whole other thing unto itself as well. So possibly also in 2020 we will be seeing, and this is a very, very, very low likelihood, but it is still possible, 2020 we could be seeing another Guns N' Roses record as well. Next, we're moving on to All That Remains, and again, if you remember, we talked about months ago when Ollie Herbert died, and the American way to say his name is Herbert, Ollie Herbert, though I'm pretty sure he pronounced it Herbert, if not his parents and or grandparents. Anyway, so he passed under very strange circumstances that involved alcohol and potentially him trying to show off, but that was unclear rather. And so they put out a new record shortly before this happened, and they were going to go on tour, and then he dies, and then they were kind of high and dry. So they picked up Jason Richardson, who is easily one of the best guitar players in the genre right now, in metal as a whole. He is, and he's a kid. He's like 23, I believe, maybe even younger than that. But just strange kind of mutant. Just, yeah. awesome. So they picked him up to fill in for Ollie on tour, and if you remember, we were talking about, does this potentially mean they're going to be bringing him on full time? And we got the announcement this week that yes, it does mean that they're going to be bringing him on full time. So Jason Richardson is the official new guitar player for All That Remains. I am really, really excited to see what happens from here, because as again we talked about last week, Born of Osiris, who Jason Richardson used to play for a record, has not been the same since Richardson left. So if he has that much of an impact on a brand new band, imagine what he can bring to a band that already has a decent catalog and is still itching to make new heavy music. The future is going to be very, very interesting with All That Remains, and we will definitely be keeping our eyes on it there. And then our last bit of news. This is a very interesting week because we got the Grammys. We are in award season, so we are going to be talking about awards as they happen. I'm not going to touch the Emmys because I believe those already happened. Or maybe it wasn't the Emmys. One of the awards shows has already happened. The Screen Actors Guild, maybe. I'll do the big ones. So the Oscars and the Grammys and maybe the People's Choice. And maybe, probably not the VMAs. I gave up giving a shit about the VMAs years ago. So those will be the ones that we focus on when we talk about the award shows. I might fill in between here and there. Anyway, Grammys happened today, shortly before I went to filming, so we have some winners, and there's some really interesting stuff, and we're not going to talk about the performances at the Grammys, because I did not watch them. I just was curious to see who won, and that's going to be enough of a conversation in and of itself. We're not talking about every category, because there's literally like 300 categories that they give awards for. We're only going to be talking about a few very choice awards, and again, if you watch the channel with any sort of regularity, then the awards we talk about will not be a surprise. So, kicking it off, we have the biggie, Record of the Year. Now, here's the thing. When doing the research for this, I was very confused because they have Album of the Year, they have Record of the Year, and they have Song of the Year. Now, album and record could be synonymous, or song and record could be synonymous. So what's going on? I'll explain. Album of the Year is the collected album, all of the songs put together in sequence, and all of the people involved with that production. So that is Album of the Year. Record of the Year is the technical side of a single track. So that album, you take one of those songs, and then you have the artist, the producer, the engineers, everything on that side of things. That is Record of the Year. And then you have Song of the Year. And Song of the Year is, again, artist, but this time you're including the writing staff as well, and not the production staff. So oftentimes there's a lot of overlap between those two categories, between who gets the award, but not always, especially not with pop music, because they are very different camps in the world of pop music. However, in the world of metal and rock and roll, there's a lot of, we wrote it and we performed it and we recorded it, and that all happens together. So, now that we're clear on that, we're not going to talk about Album of the Year. Went to Casey Musgrove, country music. I don't really listen to him specifically, so I can't speak to whether or not that was a good thing. So that's a big part of the reason why we're avoiding it. And we're not talking about it specifically. And I mean, it's cool that it went to a country artist when there were big pop names involved too, though pop country right now and pop music are really not that different. So next we're talking about Record of the Year, and this one's really interesting because it's Childish Gambino, This Is America. Very, very well done song, especially when we're talking about the technical side of it, which is what Record of the Year is for, is all the technicalities, production, engineering, such and such and so forth. So Childish Gambino won for This Is America on Record of the Year, and for Song of the Year, also Childish Gambino, This Is America. So the writing staff, which is just Donald Glover and Ludwig Göransson. I'm going with Göransson. So this is apparently the first time in Grammy history that a rap song has won both awards at the same time. So that's pretty awesome. And I mean, you look who it's going up against. It wasn't really stiff competition. This was an easy one for Donald Glover to take, because I mean, you have Cardi B, who won Rap Record of the Year, and we're gonna get to that, believe me. Brandy Carlisle, I've never heard of. Drake is probably the stiffest competition in this category, though Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, I've heard great things about that record, which I also haven't listened to. And then Kendrick Lamar, All the Stars, Kendrick Lamar and SZA, that Black Panther, it wasn't that great. Like, I dig Kendrick Lamar, but the Black Panther record was not that great. Post Malone, not as good as the hype wants you to believe, and I don't know who the hell Zed, Maren Morris, and Gray are. So, again, really easy category. And it's kind of the same on Song of the Year. You have Kendrick Lamar, you have, I don't even know who that is, Boot Up is the name of the song, God's Plan, that's Drake, In My Blood, not a clue. The Middle, again, Zed, Maren Morris, and Gray, no idea. Shallow, Lady Gaga, and This Is America, which won. So not the most difficult award for him to win, though kudos, because again, great, even though what you may or may not extract from the politics of that is kind of whatever. As far as performance and everything else on that, though, it absolutely deserved the Grammy. So next up, and this is probably the biggest middle finger to actual good music that happened this year at the Grammys, is Best Rap Album. Went to Cardi B. Now that might not be a big deal, if not for the fact that Travis Scott is in this category this year for Astroworld, and Mac Miller, who put out Swimming this year. I did not realize Mac Miller put out a record that would be eligible for the Grammys this year, so that blows my mind. Cardi B won over Mac freaking Miller. Cardi B, who is functionally retarded, won over Mac Miller, who was one of the most gifted MCs of the last 20 years. He's no lyricist like Eminem, but man, he had a flow and a delivery and just rhyme schemes for days and days and days. And Cardi B has tits, and that's why she won. Yes, this is the first time a woman has won this category, but I feel like it should not have gone to somebody because of their gender, and it should have gone to somebody based on their merit. And nobody in this category can hold a candle to Mac Miller. So that is insulting. But we're going to move on, or I'm just going to keep putting my foot in my mouth, and people are really going to hate this video, but whatever. I don't care. Mac Miller's better than Cardi B for days. So next we're going to move, and there's a bunch of nonsense Beck won alternative music. Oh boy, I didn't realize, I kind of realized Beck was putting out music. I just didn't realize he put out something this year, but he won over Bjork, who we talked about when she put out her Utopia record. We talked about that months ago. So I don't know. I'm cool with that. But anyway, we're moving on. Keeping it rolling. Next is Best Rock Performance, and this is specifically to rock and roll, which I love how they just randomly make the most broad genre into something specific, or seem like it's something specific. So the nominees were 4 out of 5, Arctic Monkeys, When Bad Does Good, Chris Cornell, Made in America, The Fever, 333, I don't know who that is, Highway Tune, Greta Van Fleet, and Uncomfortable by Hailstorm. Chris Cornell won this one, posthumous award. I'm not super familiar with the song, though I'm just glad Greta Van Fleet didn't take it, because apparently they're the darlings of rock and roll these days, and lame. And then Best Metal Performance. This is specific to metal metal songs, rather. The nominees were Condemned to the Gallows by Between the Buried and Me, Honeycomb by Deaf Heaven, Electric Messiah by High on Fire, Betrayer to Trivium, and On My Teeth by Under Oath. So let's look at this a little bit. We have Between the Buried and Me, which is, prog metal, sure, I'll give you that. Deaf Heaven, not entirely sure, though they are on tour with some really heavy acts, so I can only imagine, yes, they are also metal, but I feel like there's more noteworthy metal that's come out in the last year, so that one's shaky. High on Fire, absolutely. They won. There's a reason they won, because Electric Messiah is brilliant. So High on Fire, absolutely. Betrayer by Trivium, sure. Trivium kind of holding that torch of thrash into this new wave of American heavy metal. And then Under Oath. Under Oath fits on this list only because there is no punk, there is no hardcore subcategory that they give awards for. In the eyes of the Grammys, we metalheads are just lucky that we even get one singular category. So yeah, that's the only reason Under Oath can arguably even exist on the same list as High on Fire or Between the Buried and Me. Lame. So next we have Best Rock Song, and this goes to songwriters in rock, hard rock, and heavy metal. So why it's called just Best Rock Song, who knows? We have Black Smoke Rising by Greta Van Fleet, those guys. Jumpsuit by 21 Pilots, Mantra by Bring Me the Horizon, Mass Education by St. Vincent, which is what won, and then Rats by Ghost. And this is the cool thing about the Ghost thing, is that they have credits, right? So Tom Dalgety and a Ghoul writer are the writers credited on this song, which is they're really dedicated to that aesthetic, aren't they? But on this, they say it's open to metal songs, and technically Ghost is like power metal, hair glam metal kind of, maybe. And then you have Bring Me the Horizon. There's just no balance. They just don't recognize whatever. And then our last category we're going to talk about is Best Rock Album, which this goes to any album containing at least 51% of new rock, hard rock, or metal. 51%. So, like, just over half of the record could be a metal record, and then the other half could be a rap album. Just weird. So nominees: Rainier Fog, Alice in Chains, Mania by Fall Out Boy, Prequel by Ghost, From the Fires by Greta Van Fleet, which won, and Pacific Daydream by Weezer. Now, I haven't listened to the Weezer track. I have listened to the Alice in Chains track, and Greta Van Fleet takes this? By writing the songs that Zeppelin threw away, Greta Van Fleet has won a Grammy. Okay, whatever. That's what we have for news. I just bumped the microphone. I'm sorry. That's what we have for news. Let's kick over to reviews before my head explodes.
Before we jump into the reviews though, guys, I gotta remind you about the Patreon. Patreon.com/generallynerdy. That is the place where you can go support this channel directly. And for that additional support, you get additional content. There are 7 tiers ranging anywhere from just early access and your 1 monthly Discord to multiple Discords, production credits on every episode, and anything in between. So go check out patreon.com/generallynerdy because I am too poor to run a paywall on my own. I am the sole proprietor of this channel. Nothing gets put up here that does not touch my hands. Actually, nothing gets put up here that I did not make in its entirety. So help a brother out. Go to patreon.com/generallynerdy and join my patronage and get the extra content. I really give so much, even just for the $1, which is the lowest level that you can jump on at. So again, patreon.com/generallynerdy. And now let's go review some stuff.
So this week for reviews, we have 3 more reviews, not doing 2 heavy ones, though we got 1 heavy one throwback rock is what I like to call it, and then 1 hip-hop song that just got released. So first on the list, as always, all the links to these songs and or videos are down in the description. We are just going to be talking about songs because I don't believe any of these 3 have videos just yet. So, first on the list is In Flames, the godfathers of what we now know as metalcore, though I believe their technical subgenre definition is Swedish melodic death, maybe, even though not really. They are to metalcore what like Sabbath is to metal. Like, yeah, they are definitely that genre. Like, Sabbath is a metal band, even though they technically came around before that was a thing. In Flames is also that for metalcore. They were metalcore before Killswitch Engage, who arguably is the forefront of the subgenre. So the name of the song is Brann, again linked down in the description, and you can definitely see their influence when they and this is brand new. This is off of their record that's coming out in March called I the Mask is the name of the record. You can definitely see their influence all over Killswitch Engage, and this song is a pretty decent example of that. It feels just like you would expect In Flames to feel. Solid. All over. Super, super solid. Now, there are trappings and failings that they fall into that they have kind of always fallen into, and nothing's really changing. So take with that what you will. The guitar performance is solid. The vocal performance is solid. The drummer even, there's nothing to complain about the performances that they give. Bass, you don't really know because you can't hear it all that well. This mix, while passable, while decent, is not great by any stretch because we lose a lot of the bass tone behind the drums, which is kind of a thing that tends to happen with metalcore bands. Even Killswitch, Mike D'Antonio is a decent bass player, but especially on their earlier records, you really can't tell because he just falls. He's just root notes, mostly root notes, and in rhythm with the drum, which when you're not produced properly, really gets lost. Really gets lost, and that happened here. Also, an issue with the production I had with this song specifically, and with In Flames and the genre even in general, is that the production is so shiny and glossy and overdone to the point where there are passages in the song where it is more subdued and mellow, I guess is a good word for it, melodic. And there's no like there's an audible shift in dynamics in the way it's played, but there is a very small shift in dynamics in the way you're hearing it. Does that make sense? So it's so over compressed that when they play softer, it sounds like they're playing just as hard as they were in the previous section of the song, and that kind of bugs me about the genre. Aside from that, though, this is a prime example of the genre, so let's get into those scores. So just a real quick reminder, general score is the technical side of things. We'll do 2 specific scores, and then the subjective side of things is the enjoyability. So general for these guys is an 80 out of 100. Just like I said, there are very key issues with this subgenre of metal, and this does not do anything to overcome those key issues. So it's an 80 out of 100 for that, because they're not stepping forward. They are existing perfectly where they have always existed, but they are not doing anything to try and step out of that, to try and even expand that. So 80 out of 100 is the general score. Next is the genre score, and this on earlier records would be damn near perfect, because again, these guys influenced an entire subgenre as far as my eyes see it anyway. This, though, specifically this song plays like a lot of the stuff from the middle of the pile, though it still has something that you recognize. I mean, there is a definite sound to In Flames. So all of that being said, we're looking at a 92 out of 100. Again, just because these guys started this, like, this is where they are, and you can't necessarily hold it against them that as they've progressed, they sound like other bands that want to be like them. Third, we're talking writing, and from the guitar licks to the vocals, even the drums, it's good, but it's nothing. Again, audio, you can definitely tell this is In Flames, but mediocre In Flames. It's not. I don't know. It's. There is nothing here that is extra substantive. It's just, this is In Flames. This is what In Flames always has been. This is an 83 for the writing of this In Flames song. And then our last metric for this is the enjoyability. How enjoyable was it? Is it worth listening to? Absolutely, this is worth listening to. In Flames is... I will keep saying it. In Flames are one of the proto versions of this genre. If you dig metalcore, then you probably already like this song. You've probably already pre-ordered the record. Well, maybe not, because that's not really a thing anymore. People don't actually pre-order records, which sucks, because now bands have to work so much. Anyway, so 90 out of 100 for the enjoyability. It could have been much, much better, though, again, it is super solid where it is. Which gives us a total of 345 for the score out of 400, almost a 350, which is good, really good score, actually. Next, we are talking about Buckcherry Warpaint. Also coming off of an album that will be coming out in March. I believe this one is March 8th. Link, again, as always, is in the description. If you want to go listen to the track as well, let me know where I have failed you. Definitely go check that out. If you are a Buckcherry fan, this is right up your alley. So Buckcherry, now the first thing you have to do when you're listening to something like this is quantify the subgenre. Now, generally speaking, I don't like doing that, but since we are writing a review that involves the genre, we need to define the genre of Buckcherry. And what I have come to as the subgenre, and I by no means claiming to have coined this phrase. I've heard it used a number of times to describe their sound and similar sounding bands. They are what I refer to, and what others I have heard referred to as throwback rock. It's rock and roll that you would hear something akin to somewhere around the late 70s, early 80s, or even potentially a little bit older than that, though Buckcherry pretty solid in that approximate era of music. Which means there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of production to make it as shiny as possible, and there's a lot of relatively simplistic guitar work. And so that's where we're gonna... No, that's not where we're gonna start. We'll get to the guitar work after we talk about the vocalist. Now, Josh Todd is his name, and when Buckcherry first came out, we had Check Your Head, For the Movies was Hanging Out for him. Cocaine was the other one that Buckcherry did. Check Your Head and Cocaine. Those two tracks off of their first major label record, were super catchy, and the dude's voice was very unique. And I mean, he has this interesting higher register, in a similar vein as Noodles from The Offspring, but not the same vein, because Noodles is in a class all unto himself. But it's kind of got that kind of distinctive quality to it. So this record, being their sixth studio album, and also they put out Check Your Head and Cocaine back in the, I want to say like the early aughts, 2001 maybe, 2000 even, so early aughts. We're looking at 20 years of time that has passed, and again, in this subgenre, they're living this lifestyle that we know of as glam rock, which is also a subcategory that people have thrown them into, is glam rock, which to me they're kind of one and the same. So it would seem that Josh's voice has fallen prey to some of the lifestyle choices that people who live and breathe this genre of music fall into, being drugs and alcohol. And he sounds on this track, he sounds like Ozzy Osbourne gargling glass at times. It's not the prettiest his voice has ever sounded. It's not terrible. By no means should you think that this is a bad Buckcherry song. It's just there's a lot better offerings in the Buckcherry catalog. So there's that. The structure of this is super predictable. It is one of the poppiest structures. Easily, A, B, A, solo, C. So you've got bridge, chorus, A, B, A, B, A, A, B, A, B, solo, C. So bridge, chorus, verse, chorus, solo, bridge. It's pretty simple. But that's kind of, again, the genre that we're in. There's not a whole lot of experimentation with the form. So you can't necessarily hold that against them. You just got to analyze the individual parts. Is there something stand out in any of those parts? And really, there's not. Even the solo sounds like something you could have heard better on like a Rat or a Poison album back in '84. So it's pretty middle of the road, though you're not getting a whole lot of stuff like this from artists today, so kind of torchbearer in that respect. As far as production on this overall, though, this is super shiny production, like you would expect from this band, from a band in this subgenre, throwback, glam, whatever. You expect everything to be pretty compressed and pretty straight through all the way, but the thing that this does on its production that our previous song didn't do is it maintains some of the auditory dynamics. And that is impressive. So let's really quick get into these scores for Buckcherry Warpaint. First is the general score. All of the technical aspects, production-wise, and etc., etc. This is straight C. 75 out of 100 for general score. The production, while great, is still a little too bogged down by the performances of the guitar players and by Josh Todd's subpar, to be 100% frank, subpar vocal performance. So 75 out of 100 on general score, which then we're into the genre score. And on genre, again, there's like 2 other bands out there doing stuff like this, and so these guys fit right on top of that pile. 95 out of 100 for the genre. That is probably the saving grace of this song. Next, we're talking about the writing score, and nothing about the writing, vocals or instruments, nothing about this stands out, is spectacular in any way. We're looking at a 65 out of 100 because all of the reasons I've already given. Which brings us finally to the enjoyability score. Is this worth listening to? Sure. If you like the glam stuff, if you like that throwback rock like Theory of a Dead Man, stuff like that, sure, absolutely, this is right up your alley. Just so I don't bury the lead, we're looking at a 78 out of 100 for the enjoyability score. Not quite a B, but very, very close. So a B would be something that, yeah, you can spend... I could justify spending a couple bucks on listening to this, or even going to see the band perform this live. I wouldn't go that far. If this comes on the radio, I'm not going to change the station. That's about where this sits in that score. And that is a total of 313. Like I said, that genre score really saved this song because there is really only one thing that they do very well, and it's not even the band that does it. It's the producer and the sound engineer that did it. It's the production of this song. So 313 out of 400 for the total for Buckcherry Warpaint. And then our last review for the week, guys, is Royce the 5'9", Field Negro. Link in the description to the song. I'm going to get in trouble for reviewing this. Just the fact that I'm even talking about it is going to get me in trouble. And aside from that, also, the fact that I don't agree with Royce's politics is going to get me in trouble. Now, that being said, this is a spectacular song. My only issue with this, aside from the lyrical content, i.e. Royce's politics, aside from that, because I can't let that taint the technical ratings, right? So if I'm objectively looking at the quality of production, the quality of the lyrics, because this is a rap song, the quality of the flow and the rhyme scheme, all of that, if I'm looking objectively at those, then the subject matter cannot color that until we get to the subjective rating at the end of the score. So objectively, there is only one thing wrong with this song, and that's the low end. We are in a genre that thrives on the bass. We are in a genre that rattles rattles car trunks across the world, not just across the nation, across the world. And this song really doesn't have any bottom end. Even the drum kit that they have in here, as interesting and well put together as the drum beat is, there's no bottom end to it. The kick drum sounds like it's been neutered. They filtered the crap out of it, so the aesthetic of the audio is really interesting because it's got that lo-fi kind of old-timey kind of sound, but that is kind of at the expense of the bottom end. Now, all of that being said, Royce's vocal delivery is spot on. His rhyme, the flow is great. The structure of the lyrics, as far as like how they are put together, masterful. Royce, of all of Eminem's regular co-conspirators, if you will, Royce is by far the best, and definitely deserves to be much more well known across the country because, again, masterful. Dude is great. Before I gush too much, let's get into the scores. General score for this, technical aspects, production, engineering, again, all of that, we're looking at a 92 out of 100. If there had been a bass line, if they had not neutered that drum kit quite so much, that would have easily put this up to potentially 98, 99. Don't know if I would still even go with a perfect score here, but very freaking close. Because we didn't get that though, 92 out of 100. Genre, Royce is one of the best in the genre. Bar none, dude is great. A little bit too braggadocious for me, but that's also kind of part and parcel with the genre. So 95 out of 100 for the genre score. And then writing. There was one section where I felt like it wasn't as gelled as it could have been, but still very well done. And even there's another section where it's like slam poetry. It's brilliant. It's really freaking cool. Go listen to this song. 95 out of 100 for writing. And then the enjoyability score. Is this song worth listening to? Absolutely. It's not going to be on a record, so you have to just go find the single, go put it on your Spotify, look it up on wherever you stream your music, YouTube even, that's where the link is down in the description. You check that out. Enjoyability, though, this one is the one that took the biggest hit because of the politics. This is where I can say, no, you're misinformed. You are well-intentioned, but very misinformed. And because of that, we're looking at an 82 out of 100. It always kills the experience for me a little bit. And I'm just some white guy, and whatever. So hate on me, even though I love this track. I love Royce the 5'9". I think the Bad Meets Evil record that he did with M a couple years ago is one of Eminem's best records because Royce is on it with him, because Royce is keeping him on his toes, and very few rappers out there can do that. So absolutely one of the most talented rappers in the genre, though the enjoyability takes a hit. We're looking at a 364 total for this song, which is one of the highest I've ever given anything, even though this is still a relatively new section of the videos. But that, guys, is where this week's video ends. What did I miss? What should we talk about next week? What should I review next week? Let me know in the comments down low. Let me know if you agree with my reviews, or if I'm absolutely out of place and I shouldn't be talking about this stuff. Let's have that conversation down low as well. If you are new to Generally Nerdy, then please click that subscribe button. If you like this episode, click the like button or the dislike button if otherwise, whatever, jerk. If you are falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up, then you can click or tap the box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before we go and do all of the things and all of that stuff, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.